Welcome back for week 4 running back tiers. This is exactly how all the running backs are going to finish, so feel free if I'm wrong or too high on somebody, too low on somebody, just let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't already, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Without further ado, let's go ahead and kick off S tier with Christian McCaffrey. He leads all running backs in targets, receptions, and receiving yards, 27% target share. It's astronomical. It's better than Amon-Ra. It's better than Malik Neighbors. You're starting Christian McCaffrey each and every week. Saquon Barkley comes in at number 2. He's on the road versus the Bucks. Another tough matchup, but you're starting him each and every single week. He's Saquon Barkley. He's not the same one we saw in 2024. Number 3, you might say this is a little too high. You might say it's a little too low. But James Cook comes in at number 3. 16.5-point favorites in this game versus the Saints. I can't remember the last time I saw a spread this wide in the NFL. It has to be the year with Peyton Manning when he had neck surgery and they were having like accountants come out there at quarterback. 16.5 points is astronomical. So yeah, James Cook is going to be just fine. Bijan Robinson versus the Commanders. They're the third best against the running back, so that's a little concerning, but even with the Falcons looking awful in week 3, Bijan was still just so consistent. 5 or more targets in every single game. He's second in receiving yards among all running backs, and he's the top 5 rusher in the NFL. So, yeah, you're starting him up. And then Jonathan Taylor, speaking about top rushers, he's the best running back, I feel like, right now in all of fantasy. You could argue Christian McCaffrey, but it's 1 and 2. He gets the Rams in week 4. They are the best against running backs. Those FSU guys, regardless, I mean, you're still going to be starting Jonathan Taylor. You don't go away from the Flames. And then, oh man, Derrick Henry, the big guy. You feel for him. This is the only person I added fumbles to for any of their metrics, but he's fumbled in each and every single game so far in the season. But he's playing the Chiefs, and you're still going to go out there and start him. It's a no-brainer. Still start him up each and every single week. Those things are going to happen. And then Jahmyr Gibbs. You could argue he could be a little bit higher. The Browns, I had to put him just a little bit lower. You're obviously starting him, but just keep in mind the results that you're going to get maybe aren't what you expected because the Browns defense have shut down running backs so far on the season. And then kicking off A tier with Josh Jacobs. Travels to Arlington to face the Cowboys. First game without Jaden Reed, and Jacobs has 9 targets. You see that sometimes where, I wouldn't expect 9 targets, but you see that sometimes where a pass catcher goes out and the running back actually picks up the slack as opposed to other pass catchers. That's where you typically see an uptick in passing game work. He faced the Browns' stout defense, just as I mentioned with Gibbs before, and we're expecting more of what we saw in week 1 or week 2 versus, when he's playing Dallas here in week 4. And then Devon Achane versus the Jets. It just seems like he's game script proofed. He's second in targets among running backs, only behind Christian McCaffrey. He split a little bit of the carries with Ollie Gordon in week 3, so that's a little concerning, something to monitor. But regardless if it's on the ground or through the air, Achane's getting it done. And then speaking of, Marion Hampton. Man, you hate to see, prayers up for Najee Harris, obviously, with his injury. You never want to see that happen. But Hampton should see 80% of the work each and every single week. This is the 4th easiest matchup. He plays the Giants here in week 4. So, yeah, he jumped all the way from D tier just last week all the way up to A tier. Happy to see it for him. Bucky Irving comes in as the next running back. He plays the Eagles. The Eagles are a good defense. We know this. He's tied a career high with 25 carries in week 3. Almost had 100 scrimmage yards. But he gets it down. He's like a different version of Devon Achane. He gets more rushing attempts. But he catches the ball, he rushes the ball, and he could see more targets with Mike Evans missing. So that's something to monitor as well. And then Kyron Williams coming here versus the Colts. Highest over-under of the week, 48.5 points. The floor is extremely solid as a rusher. He's a low-end running back 1 for me in week 4. And then Jordan Mason travels to Pittsburgh, faces the Steelers. First game without Aaron Jones, and he goes for 100-plus yards and 2 scores. You could run on the Steelers as well. So, if you're watching the Patriots game, you wouldn't have been able to tell that because it was just everybody was fumbling the ball. But nevertheless, fire up Mason with some confidence. J.K. Dobbins at home versus the Bengals. Jordan Mason just torched them for 100-plus yards and 2 scores, as I mentioned. Easiest second matchup for running backs, and the Broncos are favored. Ashton Jeanty, you might be surprised that he is this high up in B tier, but this is your last opportunity to trade for him. He's playing the Bears. The Bears defense Here's how they've matched up against running backs for the first 3 weeks. Jordan Mason, 4.5 per carry. Javonte Williams, 7.6 yards per carry. And Jahmyr Gibbs, 7.8 yards per carry. That should give you a little bit of confidence here for Ashton Jeanty. Lack of passing work in week 3 was a little bit concerning for me. But that game just kind of got out of control after the half. But I still have confidence in Jeanty. Again, if you could trade for him before this week, go ahead and do so. And then Kenneth Walker in Arizona versus the Cardinals comes up with the most Kenneth Walker stat line. I mean, 16 rushing attempts for 38 yards and 2 scores. Like, that's about how Kenneth Walker gets it done sometimes. He's explosive, and if he breaks it through the line, then you're happy, but this is also part of the game that you play when you start up Kenneth Walker. And then Breece Hall comes in next, travels to Miami to face the Dolphins, 5th easiest matchup against running backs. Monday Night Football, so hopefully they get Justin Fields back so they can move the offense just a little bit better. But Breece Hall, I think, should be fired up in all formats. And then Travis Etienne, 3rd in rushing yards in the NFL. But the yards per carry and the yards have gone down each and every single week. The Jags only had 1 carry inside the 5-yard line last week, and that was Bashal Tutin. So somewhat concerning in that aspect. And then Chuba Hubbard in Foxborough versus the Patriots. He gets just about everything for the Panthers, so that's nice. The Patriots' run defense is very good. The Panthers just put up 30 points, and despite having the similar scrimmage yards he's had in the first 3 weeks, Chuba didn't have a great outing since he didn't have a touchdown. So, still happy as a running back 2 for me, but just monitor expectations against New England. And then Javonte Williams, man, I really wanted to put him higher, but this matchup here versus Green Bay, it's a gamble. Green Bay's defense has looked great through the first 2 weeks, and then they played the Browns in week 3, and Quinshon Judkins looked like a veteran of the game. He looked like one of the best running backs in football facing against them. Yeah, it gives me a little bit more hope that Judkins just did this against the Packers defense, and maybe Javonte can get it done as well. And then Alvin Kamara coming in here, travels to Buffalo versus the Bills. Again, 16.5-point underdogs. Kamara might have 200 targets in this game. I'm being serious. Like, I'm not... The Seahawks last week, they were down almost immediately, and he only got 2 targets. So that is very concerning for me. There's no more check down Derek Carr anymore. So that's something that we need to monitor and change our priors for Alvin Kamara. And then, as I mentioned, Quinshon Judkins, he goes to Detroit, plays the Lions. If you told me you had Judkins above Jeanty this week, I would be perfectly fine with that. I faded Judkins last week because it was his second game. He's playing the Packers defense. And that turned out to be wrong. That happens. We're going to take L's sometimes. You just got to go with the process. He's only going to get more and more work from here. So I'd love to see some more work in the passing game, but regardless, either way, he's been great. And then again, before we get into C tier, if you haven't already, make sure you are subscribed to the channel because I'm coming out with waiver wire videos each and every single week, as well as tier list for the running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, tight ends, and defenses. So those will be coming out later this week as well. And then C tier, name starts with a C. Chase Brown, got to put him right in here. Oh, man. You could be B tier for bust, right? Has there been a bigger bust in fantasy football so far this season? Comment below and let me know who's been a bigger bust than Chase Brown. He was drafted like the end of the 2nd round, early 3rd at the latest, and he has been just absolutely miserable because you thought maybe week 1 was a okay outing, and week 2 it got a little worse, and then week 3 about as bad as it can get. He's officially an NFL record holder. I don't know if many people know that, but he has the most rushing attempts with fewer than 100 total rushing yards in the first 3 games of the season. So, yeah, it's a bad matchup this week. There's a lot of bad matchups more to come, so it's a tough sledding if you have Chase Brown. You can't trade him away. Nobody's taking him. And Trey Benson, everybody got him off of waiver wires for the most part. He was widely available. He plays the Seahawks here, and James Conner, unfortunately, is out for the season. Benson, if you listened to my waiver wire episode last week, I was telling you to pick up Benson. It wasn't because I knew somehow that James Conner was going to be injured, but it was more of James Conner was looking very inefficient while Trey Benson was looking very explosive. He's a great pass catcher, explosive runner. I wish the matchup was a little bit better, but he should still get a heavy workload in this one. And then Cam Scatterbo coming in, aka the Juggernaut, versus the Chargers. I wanted to put him higher, but I just simply couldn't. He's a low-end running back too, a super solid flex, if nothing else. The Chargers have been the 4th best against running backs. It's nice to see 8 targets in week 3. There's no Tyrone Tracy, so obviously that helps his overall workload. And then speaking of overall workload, Tony Pollard. I mean, you might be surprised to know this, but he has more rushing yards than Saquon Barkley. He gets the Texans here this week. It's the lowest over-under of the week, 38.5 points. 38.5 points is more points than the Texans have scored in all three of their games combined. I don't know how they get it done. Some people, I would probably hammer the under in this game. Top 6 in rushing attempts, so the volume's there, but the efficiency isn't. And 32nd in targets. We really want to see a little bit more of that. But Tajay Spears is coming back as soon as week 5. So yeah, this might be his last week as far as a full-time bell cow workload. And then DeAndre Swift in Vegas versus the Raiders. He's doing what he does best. He's not killing your fantasy team. He's not winning you any weeks. That's exactly it. And then Jaylen Warren, man, I don't understand why they keep running the ball with him, and they just keep getting worse. I don't know how they keep putting him in there. He's a great pass catcher, and he's shown explosiveness, but bad matchup. And then David Montgomery, I wanted to put him higher. As I mentioned with Jahmyr Gibbs, this is the second worst matchup for running backs. He just had 2 touchdowns. If he gets a touchdown, you're happy. If he doesn't get a touchdown, you're really not happy. And then kicking off D tier, I have Nick Chubb here at home versus the Titans. Again, the lowest over-under of the week, 38.5 points. The Texans' offense has been awful, but the Titans have given up the 3rd most fantasy points to running backs, so Nick Chubb is a good bet to maybe possibly find the end zone here this week. And then I'm going to bunch these two together with the Patriots twins. Left stats are Trayvion's, right stats are Ramondre's. Outside of Ramondre's huge catch in week 2, when have you been happy to start one of these running backs in 2025? It's a good matchup, but I don't know what they're doing in New England. Like, I would try to avoid both these starts if possible, but I understand if you can't. One that's probably even worse that I would want to start is the Kansas City Chiefs backfield. These two, man, they're splitting everything basically 50-50. Kareem Hunt's getting the goal line carry, so while Pacheco is the higher rostered player, Kareem Hunt is the one who's getting the high value touches. It's just absolutely disgusting. The cool part is the Ravens, they're giving up the most points to the running back. That helps a lot when you face Sonic and Knuckles, aka Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. But these are no Sonic and Knuckles. This right here is Great Value brand and Temu. It's awful. It's awful playing either one of these guys, and you can't drop them because people will pick them up immediately. They're clearly co-starters. There's no running back 1. I hate it. What's worse than 2? 3 people in the backfield, and that's exactly what you have in Washington. The Commanders, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, they traveled to Atlanta to face the Falcons. The Falcons have been good against the run. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt has not been it so far on the season. Who has been, though, Bashaw Tutin. Hasn't looked too bad. He's a high-end handcuff with potential to play like as a second flex in deeper leagues, but outside of that, you're not really excited for it. And then I bunched a few guys here. They're all left in the E tiers. Ollie Gordon, Chris Rodriguez, RJ Harvey, and Jeremy McNichols. But again, all of those guys, if you're starting them, it's you're rebuilding, your team sucks, or you've just absolutely been destroyed with injuries. Check it out at the bottom. I'm on X, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, and obviously I'm on YouTube. But I'm live every single Sunday, 1 hour before kickoff. If you have any of those start sit questions that you really need answered, I'd be happy to help you. And I'll see you tomorrow for the wide receiver rankings and tiers.